Hi everyone, and welcome to our first episode of SOFASoS Podcast. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about climate change, which I think is very important. So that's why we decided to start a series with it. And today we have our guest, Bianca. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, so hi everyone. My name is Bianca. I'm the Secretary of Maastricht for Climate. And thank you so much for having me here
Of course.
today.
Yeah, so can you tell us more about what you do specifically in the organization,
Yeah.
Maastricht for Climate specifically?
Yes, so I am the secretary, so I'm part of the board members of Maastricht for Climate, and together we try to have like an organization that is not like a hierarchical organization. We try to be quite like, everybody is the same.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there are some specific role that like few members have to take
Of
in,
course.
and one of them is like being a president, one
Yeah.
is being the secretary, and the other one is the treasurer. So these three are
Okay.
like the main board of Maastricht for Climate, and then
Yeah.
we have like subgroups and people from the other teams.
Yeah.
And I've also been part of the small action team,
Mm-hmm.
which is a team that organizes small events around Maastricht, especially with local people, just to present the issues about climate change and create awareness around the city, but also like trying to connect the cities, the locals with the students. So that's kind of what we did as a small action team. But in general, when it comes to Maastricht for Climate, we try to tackle many issues at the same time.
Yeah, I noticed like in Maastricht there really is a focus on climate change and all of that, especially that now we notice it
Yeah.
from the changes of weather, which is very strange, especially for Netherlands. But I think there is always like potential for more awareness as well. So you recently had a climate march.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about that and what happened?
Of course. So this week there was the municipal elections, as probably some people know, and we wanted to have a protest before the election to demonstrate that we want climate justice, we want social justice, and we need to vote for the future, and that like even us as international students that like come from Europe and can vote, it's really important to vote because even what you do locally has an impact. And I think it's really important, especially when you look at Maastricht, like the air quality of Maastricht is one of the worst in the Netherlands.
Okay,
and
that's
so
good to know.
And so much action needs to be taken, and it's not only that, but like you can really start making changes by starting doing things locally. And so I think we wanted to be there, be on the street, and show the politicians, hey, we're here and we care. But of course, like you said, there is already quite some sustainability, like awareness around Maastricht. And of course, like there is a lot of organizations doing a lot. And what we decided to do as Maastricht for Climate is that we decided to bring several organizations together. We are also part of like the Maastricht Climate Coalition, and so together with the Maastricht Climate Coalition we decided to go there and protest. And among the organizations that have helped was also like Amnesty International. There was also Free Palestine Maastricht. A lot of other.
So you work with a lot of like other organizations to help bring awareness, because I would say like climate change is affected through many different ways. So that's pretty nice, actually.
And I think what we were really trying to show is that climate justice is social justice. So a lot of issues that are happening today, especially when it comes to like the war in Ukraine or other things, cannot be taken separately, and we don't have we should try to fight the system together rather than each individually fighting something on their own. And I think together we can be stronger.
Sorry. Can you better clarify like how, for example, the problems in Ukraine affect climate change? Like, what is it? Is it the capitalism, or is it, because I understand, for example, when you say like climate change is also like social justice, because usually when it comes to climate change, we're hurting usually third world countries or countries where, we like, I don't know, Western countries are like really using their land and kind of like hurting, the soil and the trees and all of that. So like, Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course, like I'm not an expert in
Yeah, of
wars and
course.
stuff, so it's my own views, but I think coal, oil, and fossil fuels are financing the war, while also driving us deeper into the climate crisis.
Yeah.
So, you know, now we are like seeing how it's important to like go for more sustainable or like renewable solutions when it comes to energy, because of course, like gas is increasing the prices and stuff. But if we had to like, if we would have listened to it before, we wouldn't have arrived in a situation where like a powerful person has so much money and so much power and is controlling like a country.
We would be more independent, even as a household alone. Like if your house has solar, you would be more independent and you wouldn't be as affected by such a war, or you know,
or we wouldn't have driven like crazy people to have so much money to start wars. And it's not just a war in Ukraine, like we cannot ignore the other wars that have been happening, and we kind of see history repeating itself. And and then also like of course the climate is the one of the things that is also being affected through these situations.
I wanted to ask, like, when you do a climate march or something like that, do you feel like the impact that it has? Like, for example, do you see more engagement because I've never been like part of a, because like you are like the secretary, so you can kind of see the impact more than people that go there. Like, do you notice, okay, you have more engagement on social media, or you feel like in the next march a lot more people are gonna come because you raised awareness in the previous one? Or do you even notice like it has an effect on the elections, or you know, the municipality of Maastricht suddenly is being more considerate about those things? Do you notice these effects, or is it more like passive? Or
I think it's a little bit of everything. Maybe we can go back to like 2018, 2017 when like the Fridays for Future movement started. There we saw that like it really had an impact. We saw how like everything turned more green, and there was like a really start of a greenwashing also in policies, and that all started with, you know, Greta Thunberg protesting. So I think there we really saw a change. And to be honest, like I decided to join this organization when I went to my first climate march. That was in 2018 here in Maastricht, and maybe it was 2019. Anyway, like,
it's all good.
It's already quite a long time ago. And I saw these people, and I was like, whoa, these people are super cool. Like there were people speaking on top of like the patio in a fright of, and they had such a like big crowd, and I was like, this is powerful. That was really powerful. And I went to several other marches afterwards, and every time I felt like I belonged to somewhere, and then like we together really do care about climate. You know, about our earth, about our planet. And it's really nice because, you know, when it comes to like something like planet, you're like, okay, you're hopeless, you're stupid. But then when you see there are like students and old people and kids and everything, like a big group aware and wants to do something, that's really, really powerful. So for sure, like there is a change happening there. I think for me, when I went to the protest, I really became more aware. I decided to try to be vegetarian, try to be vegan, try to be activist. So like I think there, like individually it affect. And then like of course, like internationally we saw that there has been a change also politically. We have had other protests in Maastricht, and I have to say, not much change has happened over those. So it's not always the case. And then when it comes to social media, of course, like also that works a lot. Like a lot of people are like, oh, this is cool.
Especially like our generation. And, you know.
But to me, like the protest we had last Saturday, it wasn't the biggest, but it was so nice to see a community there. It was nice to see sustainable students. It was nice to see old people fighting for their causes, and everybody maybe had different reasons, but it was really, really nice. And so I have to say it does have an impact, even if it's just like, you know, that one tiny girl that looks at it and it's like, oh, I want to be like them. It still changes, because in the end, like through one protest I decided to become, you know, more and more active, and now like I was the one giving the speech at the beginning.
That's very
it
nice.
ended up me taking that position, and that was crazy. And I hope maybe I inspired some people. I hope at least I inspired one person. If I didn't, it was still very nice, and it was super powerful. So I think it's important, and I think it's something that people should not stop doing. Government should not stop people from protesting, because it's really important.
And I think it's really important that we also don't give up hope, because sometimes with like so many problems, or especially like we're both students, like you might be under like stress from exams or something, like you kind of forget the importance of climate. Especially like here, like in the Netherlands, in case like some of the viewers are not from here, like they have a very advanced like garbage system, I would say. Like you throw the organic alone, you recycle almost everything, glass, metal, plastics and stuff like that. But unfortunately you still see that, for example, most students in like student housings, they don't really have time to do all of that. They just like, they don't recycle stuff like that. Or like the consumption of plastic is so high in Maastricht. Which was really surprising for me, because I come from the Middle East, and when I came here and I went to the supermarket and everything is in plastic, like even if fruits you want to buy them, they're wrapped in plastic, even though they have an organic, they're wrapped already. So that was really surprising. But I guess I still try my best to be like, even if all of my friends or most of them don't really care about this and stuff, like it still is important. It doesn't make it any less significant. So how would you, I guess, like give tips or ways that people can, especially students, can really improve their I would say actions or habits when it comes to climate?
I think there are many ways on how to be sustainable, and personally, like, I think there's a lot of organizations that can help you with that, and if you follow them, you learn tips and things. And I don't know, for now I'm thinking like there is this organization called Sustainable Students of Maastricht. They give very good advices, and
we'll make sure to link everything as well, so that students are
link and subscribe. But also, for example, maastrichtforclimate, we have a sustainable guide. So basically we try to show how to be sustainable in Maastricht, and that's really interesting because we cover like different topics, for example, like waste, how do you waste, like how to do waste management, because a lot of people don't even know. And like, for example, the green garbage, like it's really easy to get. It's just one phone away, like one message away, and but people don't know. And so we try to also create awareness through like this sustainability guide. We show how to also be sustainable, like with your hygiene, with the food products you buy. For example, like go buy locally, go to the market on Fridays. That's always nice, also very cheap. For example, food coop is also really good, or food sharing. There is so much in Maastricht that people might not know, and that's why we created a sustainability guide to show where to find things. But in general, like if you want, you learn. But then of course, like a lot of people are not willing, and that's the problem. But if we were to realize that the situation right now is a crisis, that the climate change is a climate crisis, then I think people would start doing more. And I think a big problem right now is that people don't understand it.
I think it's really important, like with students, to really try to raise awareness and give them guides, because it's very easy as a student to sometimes, because like we're almost all trying to save money, we're all students here alone and stuff, so it's sometimes like it gets like, especially like with the mass production, like just to go to like H&M or something, which is the cheapest, so but we know that it's very unsustainable and all of that. So, and even when it goes to like buying groceries and stuff, we just go to the cheaper or easier way as well. Like a lot of students don't want to cook or something, but this all has an impact. So I guess it's really helpful to always like make guides, especially like now with Instagram guides and stuff, because I think social media plays a really important role for us here.
For sure.
Even though, I mean, some people might say like it doesn't really make action, just like more like the social media, like pretending to do action or something like that, but it still has really like a good impact on raising awareness. And I think it's a very powerful tool. So I
think especially like during COVID, we have seen how like social media does play a role when it comes to like activism. We had to do a lot of activism also through social media because we were not able to do it in person. And like, I don't know, as an organization, we always try to fight different issues, not only locally, not only within the university. Like we also work with the university and we work with like a coalition that is local, but we also do it like internationally. Like we're part of the Glasgow Agreement, and so this is like where that's where it also helps networking, you know, like social media can also play a role in that sense. And we also like nationally, actually, Maastricht for Climate is one of the few, if not the only, organization in the Netherlands that not only works within the university, but also works locally and nationally. Like a lot of the people we met, they're like, oh wow, you guys are doing so much. And that really shows how like only like few people can do a lot. And of course, social media has helped too. So
like even I didn't know about that. Like I thought, you know, Maastricht for Climate is just in Maastricht. That's it. Like it's a small group of people. So it's very interesting that such like a small group, you actually have so much influence, or I would say like even like networking power, that like now you're able to connect with organizations within Netherlands, or I'm not sure if you're even broader than Netherlands, like trying to be something in the EU, for example. So that's actually very interesting and encouraging for people to see like, no, like you can actually have an impact, especially when it comes to this situation.
Some of our members are also planning to go to Brazil to meet with the Glasgow Agreement. So this is like, basically it's many organizations from different parts of the world gathering together to discuss, and that's the idea of like the Glasgow Agreement. But then of course, like soon the name will change. But anyway, like we also do that. But there is so much more we need to do still. Like this is not enough, although it shows that like we can, like, you know, together we can do a lot, but it's still not enough. So if anyone is interested out there, it's really like a good opportunity to, you know, start doing something and get bigger and bigger and demand more, because we're not even there yet.
So I also wanted to ask you, like, how did COVID impact like, you know, the awareness on climate? Or just because like I think COVID had a really, I mean, it was everything, it was the only thing that people talked about, and at that point people like even forgot that there was climate change, because a lot of people were scared they were gonna die at the moment from COVID. Now obviously it was a very serious issue as well, and it did really hurt a lot of people, unfortunately. But so how did COVID change things?
I think COVID changed things in many ways. If I think about it, like the beginning, COVID really showed that, you know, all of what we were fighting for, like we were saying, like, stop business as usual, let's stop it, let's stop this mass consumption. And the governments were like, no, this is impossible, we cannot do it. And what COVID showed is that it's possible. Of course, it's a crisis and it was necessary. I'm not saying anything, but it's just that like it showed that like government can do these things. They don't see the climate crisis as a crisis for now, so they wouldn't do it now. But at the same time, like I think that's one of the first things it showed. And then other things that we really saw is that like the awareness, the care you put into like climate issues has changed. If I like when I was organizing this last protest, when I was helping out, I was thinking like, this is not gonna be as big as the ones that I used to go to, because like even now, like if you even follow like Greta Thunberg, like the protests are not as big as they used to. Like maybe annually there must be one or two, but like Friday for Future protest every Friday is not as big anymore. Of course, COVID affected in many ways, like not only because people are scared of being in public, but also because they, I don't know, I've seen another issues, and what that was like mainstream news, and so like of course that became like more popular, let's say.
And also I would say like, because like people like they were so like COVID and lockdown and all of that, like people like now just don't want to care about anything. They just want to enjoy their lives and not think about anything else, even though it doesn't remove the problem.
And then also like, for example, there were so many other protests that had a really big impact. Black Lives Matter movement,
Yeah.
like they really got big, and of course, and it's
Yeah.
just that like now also Ukraine. So now it's really hard to bring back the
Mhm.
topic. Like we're still fucked up with the climate
Yeah,
to people
I
because there
know.
is also many other things that
Yeah.
we're fucked up for. Sorry for the
No, it's all good.
language, but you know.
Yeah.
So I think that also has not really helped the climate movement.
Yeah.
But we have not stopped. Maastricht for Climate, when the first year of lockdown, after like we were supposed to have a march, and then
Mhm.
in few months we organized a projection action. So we
Mhm.
projected picture of us standing with our sign on
Yeah.
the market hall.
Yeah.
So like in front of the municipality, you
Mhm.
could see this, and we were of course
Yeah.
demanding for a system change. And
Yeah.
then we also like reinvented ourselves.
Yeah.
We created a biking march, like
Yeah.
a biking protest because of the distance.
Yeah.
We also decided to do like stand-up protests where like
Yeah.
everybody had to keep the distance. We
Yeah.
decided to involve also more like musicians and people who had something to say, because
Mhm.
there is, you know, a lot of people did not have it easy, but also like started to be more aware about the
Yeah.
climate crisis. Like that also has helped. So we gave space to these people. We gave
Mhm.
space to those musicians or those artists that did not have anywhere to perform it. And like, yeah, the last protest we've done, there was always a lot into it. There wasn't just like
Mhm.
we march, we stand, but there was speeches and there was music, and that also like
Yeah.
I don't know, created a nice
Yeah.
environment. But for sure, what we have seen is that there are less and less people involved, and everyone for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think the fact that you guys adapted to all of
Mhm.
that really shows that you really do care,
Yeah.
and you adapted to the COVID situation, and you were very creative and came up with a lot of different things. And I think also that's really important, like, because if those organizations and you guys like actually give up or something, then you know it really hurts. I mean, yeah, it really like people depend on you, and if people stop seeing all of this like news or awareness about it, then they might just really forget about the problem.
Yeah.
And I think a huge problem that we do actually have is the fact that now we are a very trendy culture, I would say. So people really just go with it because of the trend, you know, like climate or feminism or Black Lives Matter, which is really unfortunate because these are really actually important problems. And I mean, not important, I mean, like, you know, significant issues that we have that we need to, fix. And yeah, it's really sad that it becomes like trendy. And unfortunately, when you have like those giant companies such as like, you know, brands, clothing brands, or I don't know who, like I don't want to name like some brands, but like they really take advantage of this and they pretend to be like all part of this, but then as soon as it's not trendy anymore, they just give up, and it really hurts. Like people stop showing up to protests and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's like Pride Month, right?
Yeah.
Like during June, everybody is rainbow, everything is colorful, and yeah, everybody's aware. But then what about the other months? And yeah, it's always a struggle when it comes to organize protests and to do these things, because, for example, like the protest that will happen last Saturday, we organized it like 3 months in advance. Like it's something that we have been working on. We're like, oh, election will be the week after. We need to be there the week before, and we didn't know about Ukraine. We didn't have any clue that that was gonna happen, and so that was also like a big deal, because what actually happened that day is that there was a discussion about Ukraine happening on the other side, and we had to be quiet. It was actually really powerful. So like we were marching and screaming, and then for like a short part of our path, we had to be quiet because there was people discussing about Ukrainian situation, which makes so much sense. But at the same time, you know, you see that like there is other relevant issues. So you're like, okay, like there is more relevance there and less relevance there, but all of them are still issues that
obviously
should be important to keep.
And also like obviously, for example, you're not going to be able to do a march every day, or people are going to go down, so it's expected to have like this like suddenly, for example, Pride Month, and then suddenly no. But I think the problem is that during the times where there is no march or something like that, like we also need to make sure that it's not like the idea is completely like ignored, you know, like for example the municipality or something cannot focus on like, oh, like we are doing this for this week and I don't know, selling reusable bottles or something, but then for the rest of the year, you know, it's like yeah, so that's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what else do you have like to say about like the organization or anything that you want to talk about like concerning climate right now that comes on top of your head, like that's very recent, for example?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to our organization, like what we try to do is like work like I said, internationally. And we have actually like some of our members that wants to go to Brazil, so we're at the moment trying to collect money to be there, because also being there is quite a powerful thing. So if anyone out there wants to help us out, of course it's more than welcome. But so the climate crisis is a global crisis. It's something that people probably in the global south are more affected than us. We don't see it. It's actually really crazy. Like there was a big flood last year in Maastricht, and people were still like,
obviously.
it's not
and
a
a
big
lot
deal.
of people died as well, but somehow it just disappears from the news and it's not significant anymore.
And also they didn't die in Maastricht, so like the day after, everything kept going as usual. And things like the flood we saw last year is not just the first, and it's not gonna end just there. It's gonna be the beginning of much more, sadly. And if you look at like science, the IPCC report is telling us like we have 7 years to do drastic changes. And so that's why what we strive for is not just like individual changes, which are very important, but
obviously.
it's system that needs to be changed, because the most powerful people are the ones with most power. The richest people have control over this. All those big corporations, they have a bigger impact than one or two people can do. But then of course, like so we have to tackle this all together, and it has to be drastic, because
and it has to be quick as well.
It has to be quick.
I think an important thing to really point out is that like climate movement, or you know, like the climate crisis is actually a humanitarian crisis. It really affects like humans in many different ways, especially in certain countries more than others, unfortunately, you know. And that's the problem. Like the countries in power, they're not seeing the impact as much, even though they are starting to see. For example, in Maastricht, you know, like it happened, and you know, that's really kind of scary that even with this happening, they still don't care that much. So as a way to wrap up the podcast, is there anything, any upcoming events or anything you would like to talk about the organization right now?
Yes, of course. So we're going to have a recruitment event happening soon. So if anyone out there is interested in joining, is curious to know more about this organization, because of course, like there is so much more. And please join. Also keep up with the movement, keep listening, join the protest, join our discussions, because we have many, and we are big, and I mean, probably we don't look big, but we are, and we're strong and we're powerful. So join us and support us.
I will make sure to link everything in the description, all the links for the registration and the organization. And thank you for coming to today's podcast. It was a very nice session, I would say.
Thank you so much.
And good luck.
Thanks.